Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Seeds of Life, where we're planting small bits of wisdom, little bits of information that, if watered and attended to by our attention, by our focus, can sprout into life-changing events. I'm Dr. Tad. Thank you for joining us here at Organic Living Chiropractic, as we do every Saturday. We are going to talk today about a really important and fascinating concept, which is, what is the root cause of all disease? Every single one, no matter what, at the very bottom, at the very beginning of every single disease process, is the body using its energy, using its fuel, using its resources in a less than efficient way. Remember, our body is a self-healing, self-growing, self-organizing mechanism. Every single cell of the body is set up to either be repaired or replaced when any sort of damage comes in. And let's be honest, life is about how well you can handle damage. Entropy, all things are tending to chaos without energy and fuel being put in for organization. And our body is a collection of individual cells, highly organized individuals that come together at an even higher level of organization. And whenever the stress of life, whenever the forces of life come into our body, every single one of those cells, its main job is to take on that stress, to take on that wearing down, to use its energy to process the information, so that it can be more efficient, so that it can function at a higher level, so that it can be smarter, it can be stronger. And then use its information to use its energy to pass on that information to the next generation of cells, and then ultimately the next generation in the species. But whenever our body, whenever our cells is using its resources, using its energy in a way that's not going to pay off, it's expending more energy than there is benefit, it's making a bad investment, given enough time, there's going to be more deterioration than there's growth. And that's what causes every single one of the diseases that our body struggles with. Let's take cancer, for instance. What is cancer? Cancer is whenever a cell has outlived its usefulness in the body. It is taking on more resources than it's giving out in benefit. And the body, for a multitude of different reasons, is still using its energy to keep that cell alive. And then that cell multiplies. And now we have a whole community of cells that are taking more resources than they're giving out. And our body is spending more resources keeping those cells alive than it's gaining from having those cells be alive. Let's talk about heart disease. What is heart disease? Heart disease is where our cardiovascular system is spending more of its energy and its resources trying to stay in a certain type of functionality instead of growing. When we get damage along our arteries, along our veins, and that damage is not well repaired, if it's just spackled and pasted with what we call plaque, if the body cannot use its resources to actually replace or repair those cells, and that plaque just keeps being used again and again and again just to survive this moment, well, after a while, that plaque either breaks off or it builds up too much, and then the blood can't flow properly, And that's what we call heart disease. That's what we call a heart attack or heart failure. Whenever the body can't replace the cells of the cardiovascular system and they just wear out and then they just give out. Let's talk about diabetes. Talk about metabolic disease. At the basis of every single metabolic disease is the body not being able to change the way that it uses fuel inside the cell. It's either too dependent on one type of fuel and isn't capable of using the other types of fuel. And then after a while, because we can't ebb and flow, because our body's not able to use all of the different fuel types that are available to it, it just wears out. So when we look at how are we using our energy, we can think of this from a cellular standpoint, like in disease, but we can also look at it in our life. Are we using our energy? Are we using the resources that we have available to us to move through life in a way that's authentic to us? Or are we using the resources that we have, the fuel that we have, to move through life just using pre-programs, stuff that we've picked up from our ancestors, from society, training from our family, these pre-programs that are laid on top of our authentic self. Every time that we're moving through life inauthentically, we are wasting the energy, we're wasting the resources that we have available to us. And it's only a matter of time until a disease process gets so far along that our body just can't manage it anymore, and then it shows up. Now, in today's day, in today's society, one of the biggest roadblocks that most of us face in being able to act authentic to our true selves is being in survival mode, being in stress mode. Now, this is a very, very good thing. And if we're in a survival situation, stress mode, survival mode is very authentic. It will keep us alive. We need it. The challenge is, because our ancestors used it so frequently, our bodies almost come pre-programmed to overuse that mode. And so if we're going through life really feeling that life is just waiting to screw us, if just around the corner is this horrible situation and that we got to prepare for, and we got to be vigilant, we got to see all the different problems that could be coming down the way. When we're using our energy and resources, fueling ourselves by the chemistry of what's the worst case scenario, what possibly could go wrong, how can I avoid what I don't want? When we're going through life mostly using that type of chemistry, we are wasting the resources of our body, because we don't, for the most part, if you turn off the news, we don't actually live in survival-based times. Our survival is very, very easy to achieve. It doesn't take much at all. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but that's the way it actually is. So for most of us, running on the fuel, running on the resources of passion and joy and peace and love, those are much, much more authentic to who we really are and the environment and the time that we're actually in. So remember, take a moment, stop, and really tune in. Is what you're doing right here and right now truly authentic to who you really are? Does it really, really light you up? Or have you just been convinced that you need to be doing it? Or are you being convinced based on fear of what could possibly go wrong? It's very, very easy to stop a disease process in its tracks. And the sooner and sooner we can stop that disease process, if we can stop the disease process in a single cell, well, we don't have to spend the time and the resources to deal with a whole diseased organ or a whole diseased part of our body or a whole diseased part of our life or a whole diseased part of our society. All disease starts as an inefficient, a waste of resources and energy. And we can stop that here, and we can stop that now before it gets too bad. Reversing it before it takes over is way more efficient than dealing with it once it becomes a big problem. Thank you so much for joining us here at Organic Living Chiropractic. We appreciate you. Again, I'm Dr. Tad. If you got anything from this video, please share it. If you're watching on Facebook, please like. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're watching on any of the other platforms, do whatever that platform asks you to do so that you can keep getting more resources like this. So that every week we can plant more and more information so that you can grow, you can thrive in life rather than just surviving the moment. We love you, and we'll see you somewhere in the field.